climate change. It's a scary phrase. And if you tensed up when you heard me say that, you're probably not alone. Especially as young people, with hopefully great futures ahead of us, the idea of one day living on an uninhabitable planet can be very unsettling. When I was 4 years old, I spent Earth Day in the pouring rain. Along with some of my neighbors, who were probably all in their 50s, I planted a tree twice my size. At 5, I sat on the carpeted floor of my kindergarten classroom in McLean, Virginia. My teacher was reading us a picture book that told the story of Winter, a dolphin who had been rescued from a fishing net in South Florida and lost her tail. The image of an injured dolphin had a big impact on little me, and I ended up spending years raising money to protect whales and dolphins. At 10, I stood in front of my school at a Thanksgiving assembly and told my students about my efforts to give up plastic bags, explaining to them why they should do the same thing. I could tell stories like these for days, but I think you get the point. I've grown up as an environmental activist. According to a 2021 study, around 80% of the global population is concerned about climate change and is willing to make changes to their lifestyles in order to help mitigate the effects of it. At the same time, however, less than 50% of people feel confident in the actions currently being taken and our ability to make progress as an international community. This brings a big question to the table. If so many people are concerned and want to make a difference, why aren't we making more progress? My answer is that the idea of climate change is a scary one. We need to start addressing climate action with that in mind. We see headlines every day about climate disaster after climate disaster, problem after problem. We hear one narrative over and over. Climate change impacts every aspect of our lives. We have to act now, or the world is going to end. I'm not going to lie. These statements are true. But are they really the most helpful way to talk about the issue? I don't think so. Climate change is easily overwhelming, and there are so many different angles to attack it from. There may be a time and a place for these fear-inducing narratives we so often hear, but we need to recognize that they can also scare people away from taking action. Even as someone who knows the issue and the movement really well, I found myself in countless situations where the doom and gloom narrative was so profound, I couldn't handle the anxiety it was causing me. Everyone was so intense about the work we were doing, constantly focusing on what was going wrong and what we needed to do to make things better. It made me feel like I wasn't doing enough, especially as someone with an anxiety disorder. It's very easy for me to start spiraling. There have been so many times when I've become so overwhelmed by thoughts of a future on an uninhabitable planet that I've set unrealistic standards for myself. Use no plastic. Waste no food. Basically, never do anything that might have a negative impact on the environment. Obviously, this way of thinking isn't very practical. It never lasted very long, because perfection is simply impossible. So I would end up paralyzed and unable to do anything at all. And so my climate anxiety cycle began. I would get anxious and overwhelmed, set crazy goals for myself, give up on those goals, get more anxious because I wasn't doing as much, and then start all over again. I came to see that this pattern wasn't very productive. I wasn't enjoying the work that used to bring me so much excitement. I was tired of working with organizations where we had weekly panicked conversations but never got any actual significant results. I struggled to find a way to go from there, but eventually I found my way back to what I started with. All 5-year-old me wanted was a way to make a difference, and I was getting tangible results. I wasn't anxious or overwhelmed about the issue I was trying to combat when I was younger, so why not go back to what I was doing then? When I was 13, I started my own organization called Youth Against Plastic Pollution. We offered simple and accessible ideas for anyone to start reducing their plastic use. Instead of overwhelming people with alarming statistics or suggesting changes that would be impossible for them to make, I wanted to emphasize the value of small, individual action. We met people wherever they were and helped them to make changes that would work for their lifestyles and have an impact. And it worked. In just over a year, we had saved over 50,000 pieces of single-use plastic from being used. And that was all the work of everyday people. Not only that, but this work I was doing actually relieved my anxiety about the situation instead of making me more stressed. The climate movement is powerful, and so many people care. But climate anxiety is holding us back. By approaching activism with the focus on small individual actions, we can go so far. No matter who you are or where you're from, no matter what your political views are or how you look at the world, I think we can all agree that living on a habitable planet for the rest of our lives would be pretty nice. And maybe the way to get there is just freaking out a little less.